Is starting to go live. Let's see if it will actually go.
Looks like it is on your page. I got it pulled up on another window. Good to go.
Good to go.
All right. Goals. It's funny. The more I thought about it, the more, um, in a sense, my mind drifted away from like, what are your actual goals versus what should you just start doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what are the actions you're taking rather than just setting goals? It's like, okay, I know what my goal is, but like, this is my step ladder to get anywhere near it. Um, but
Oh,
yeah, I think we should start with what's new with each of us.
yeah. I mean, we're live right now, so we may as well jump right in.
Which what jump right into what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Or you want to
I
bullshit
mean,
for a sec?
we're no, I mean, we may as well just jump into catching up on everything because everything's like Facebook's going right now. Like we already hit the go button. So,
Cool.
since this video is on my page, why don't we start off with talking about you there, Jack? Give us a little preview of who you are, what you're all about, and how you got that dope stash.
Started with a beard, got out of control. Now I have to hold on to it because I've got a wedding that I'm in February, not in February, this month in Florida. So my friend doesn't know that I'm gonna walk on with that, and I'm in the wedding, so that'll be fun. Um, no, I've been kind of in the like managing gym space, managing gyms. Kind of fell into kettlebells. So like CrossFit with kettlebells is basically um, what I was a part of for numerous years. Decided to go out on my own. Been doing that for 3.5 years, and that slowly, I mean, not slowly, but very quickly turned into helping people with exercise, helping people with mindset, and helping people with nutrition. Initially, I was just going to help people with at the exercise portion, but within the first like two or three clients I ever worked with, I quickly realized that nutrition plays a big role. So you got to make sure that that's in tune as well. So then got into that. Went to school for exercise science, minored in nutrition, um, played soccer, played soccer for 16, 17 years. The majority of that was on a traveling team, so we were all over. So I've always been active, always been in the gym. Here we are. My
Dope.
life story.
So, how about us, Jack? How did we meet? How did we come to develop where we are today, sitting together on a Facebook Live, getting ready to talk about goal setting with anybody who cares to listen either now or in the future?
Getting really uncomfortable, doing hard things, going to a seminar in another state, not knowing anyone, and then bumping into a couple people and becoming friends.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. We met, I think it's actually been like what, 2 years at this point that we've since we met at at Impact and Income in Phoenix.
That
Because it
seems
was
like it was
December of 21.
okay.
I
I don't know
think.
why it seems like it was like 3 or 4 years ago, but it really wasn't.
But yeah, I walked in like exactly the same as you. Like I didn't know anybody there, and I was just trying to figure out which way was up and which way was left. And I think
Mhm.
I think you and I like bumped into each other, and then and then you brought me into the group with everybody else with like Tay and Sam and that whole group that we are all a part of now.
Yeah, it, it's kind of like you find your people, right?
Yeah, it's just weird that it happened like immediately, happened right away. I think
Hmm.
the
Day,
first morning it happened.
yeah, day one.
Yeah,
I don't
day
know.
one,
It's kind of
first
like when you're
morning.
like little kids, you meet someone, you're like, you want to be friends? And you're like, yep.
Yeah. That's basically how that happened. Hey, you want to come sit over here? Yeah, okay, cool.
Or
We're friends
if I
now.
don't like you, I'm just gonna walk away.
Yeah.
But
And so far that hasn't happened yet, so that's cool.
yeah. Well, and okay, so like being a dork with what you said is like, how do we get here? Um, like the pursuit of bettering ourselves, the pursuit of um, bettering our services to others, or maybe even at the time, if you didn't have a business or someone in general was going to some seminar like that, they were trying to figure themselves out because they want to help people. Um, and, not everyone has that ability to just hop on a plane, fly across the country, and get a hotel, go to a seminar where you don't know anyone. Like not everyone's willing to do that by themselves.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, if you think about it, all these people that we met, we got like a little crew. Everyone came by themselves.
Yeah, that is true, huh? The whole group came together alone.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's other people too, but it's just like it's a group of people that give enough of a shit that they're gonna get really uncomfortable, spend some money, and hope that they get something out of it. But I think that's like comes to effective goal setting, taking action. It's like taking action, getting uncomfortable because staying at home and going, oh, I'll just, I'll buy the replay later, or you just continue to do your own research. How are you ever going to know what's actually out there, the friendships, the connections, all that kind of stuff? So
Yeah.
comes
Well,
into
cool,
play.
man. I dig it. That's pretty much how it felt for me too. The whole friends right away thing, and now 2 years later, we're also I think we not only are we all still together, we've grown in the 2 years. We've added people along the
Mhm.
way. So it's been getting bigger.
Yeah.
And that brings us to, I guess that doesn't really bring us to today, but you reached out to me about a week and a half ago about doing this. And I was like, let's do it. And my first thought was, let's do it this Thursday. Why wait? And you're like, hold on,
Yeah.
let's hold off a little bit and actually build this out a little before we just jump right in. And I was like, all right, fine, have it your way. Um,
Some organization never hurt anyone.
whatever. Okay. And
I like the
so
idea of going to wing it, but
and so here we are now, our first of hopefully many of these weekly lives. We're a little bit late, but we were figuring out some logistic stuff on the back end that we will have ironed out later on so that when we want to go live at 5 Mountain Time, 6 Central Time, we can do it right on the dot. But with all that said,
yeah.
we'll jump right in. We'll go to our first topic, our first video topic. And this week we are talking about effective goal setting. Uh, and that seems perfect because this is January. It's the beginning of a new year. We are all setting new goals for things we want to do for the year, for the quarter, what have you. And so Jack and I thought it'd be a good idea to come on and talk about how to set goals effectively because I think what's the stat, Jack? If you know off the top of your head, it's like 90 or 95% of goals don't make it past January 31st.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was either high 80s or low 90s, and then from there, by like mid to late February, the percentage of people that actually make it even through February slash through the rest of the year is single digits.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's not, and I don't and let me know what you think about this, but I don't necessarily think that it's because the idea of setting goals is necessarily bad. I think we're just going about it the wrong way. We're making a lot of the same mistakes year in and year out, and that's why this has become basically a stat and it's a stereotype, right? Like there's all the memes about gyms where, they talk about January being completely packed and then by February they're empty again.
I think a lot of people just make blind statements, and a lot of the times they piggyback off the same thing that they failed at last year, and they don't actually take the time to dive into what have I been doing? What haven't I been doing? What should I be doing? Do I need support? What kind of support am I looking for? And instead, they go, "Oh my gosh, it's the new year. I'm gonna do this." And they last a week. They last 2 weeks. So it never really, for a lot of people, it doesn't end up working out. And then there's also the stat that, um, from Thanksgiving in the States, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, there's usually like 1 to 2 pounds gained. And the majority of people actually don't lose that 1 to 2 pounds over the course of the entire year. And year after year, you hit Thanksgiving again to New Year's, another 1 to 2 pounds. Come again, 1 to 2 pounds. So the majority of people also don't lose that weight. So personally, I think it comes down to habits a lot of the times and awareness.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
setting
think
effective goals matters.
yeah, I think it definitely comes down to habits. I also think it comes down to having a plan or having systems in place for the goal, for the resolution to actually, like, just having a map to actually get you there. It's, I always use GPS as an example, right? Like if I plug in, I want to go to Wisconsin. I don't know why I would want to go to Wisconsin. I don't know anybody there. Um,
How?
but if I but if I just Jackson, Wisconsin, we didn't cover that part. But if I just plug in like I want to go to Wisconsin, to any GPS service, Apple, Google, whatever, it always gives you a route. It gives you, the best route, and then you can customize it. You can say, I don't want freeways or I don't want toll roads or anything like that. And it'll tweak and modify the plan slightly, but it'll still get you to Wisconsin. And I think that's something that we don't talk enough about and we don't do enough when we want to set a goal. We just have the goal of like, cool, I want to lose 20 pounds. And then that's where it ends. So we don't really hit the go button on the GPS. So we don't really have a defined path to get there.
Right. Or they throw a blindfold on and say, let's drive.
Yeah,
Um,
basically. And then,
and
you wake up one day and you're like, how did I end up in Los Angeles?
not where I wanted to be. It's warmer than Wisconsin. Um, yeah, it's in it. Like I think it starts with awareness there, and both of us as coaches too. I think with almost any program we bring someone on, the first step is like drawing awareness to things. If you want to change your nutrition, let's draw awareness the first week at minimum to what you're doing. If it's training, if it's other habits that aren't serving you, draw awareness. Again, we're not just going to blindly jump into a program because a lot of people aren't meeting themselves where they're actually at. They're reaching for something and they don't have the wherewithal, the awareness of where they've been and what actually might work for them, and that they're going, too quickly, or they're skipping a gear, if you will. We're both car nerds, so that helps. But oh hey Danny, I was gone. Who's there? Um, but I think starting slow matters a lot, and a lot of people get overly excited and they jump in too deep too quickly, and
Yeah.
drowning in this case is swimming to the side and then continuing to do what they've done every year, every day, and they end up
Yeah.
right back
And
to
really
square.
yeah, exactly. And really that brings us to the first few things that we should talk about today. Really when it comes down to setting up a new goal and figuring out where you want to go, there's really three big questions to ask at any time, right? And the first one that we'll talk about is things that we should stop doing. So we should ask ourselves when we're setting up a new goal and trying to figure out how to change something in our lives is figure out what I should stop doing.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things that we do either on like a daily, a weekly, a monthly, or even an annual basis in some cases. Um, because it's when you're trying to drive, again with the Wisconsin GPS example, if you're trying to figure out how to get somewhere and you hit, a closed road, you should probably stop trying to drive down that closed road. And that's what you're talking about with drawing awareness to where a person is and how their life is structured right now and identifying any roadblocks with that new client for as far as things that could be in their way, even if it's things that they're not aware of that may be in the way.
Right. Yeah, it's if you're walking down the hallway and the the hallway turns, but you decide to keep going straight, and you're like, why am I hitting a wall? I'm just going to keep trying to hit this wall,
Why does my head
you
hurt?
know? Yeah, yeah. Um, and it's just like a lot of people think that if they keep doing something, they're going to get a different result. And it's like, unfortunately, with a wall, you're probably going to lose. So again, it's that clear obstacle that's in your way. What are you doing that you should stop doing? And I think a lot of the time too is if someone doesn't have the support that they need, this is actually really hard to see. Um, you also have to have people that you can trust, people that are going to give it to you straight. And Tony is one of those people for me. Whenever I've got something, I know I got a handful of friends that, not that I don't have like other awesome friends, but it's just like he's one of those guys where I can bring it up, and he'll throw a little shade, and then he'll be like, "No, dude, it's like, do you not see this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." Like that's all I needed. I just needed to hear that, and
Yeah,
that's enough to okay. Okay. The hallway goes this way. Here I go.
yeah. And that's like, then that's right back at you, right? Like I made the Instagram post yesterday, I think, about my squatting, and I reached out to you because I was dealing with something for like a month with like this hand just right here just hurt every time the weight went over 300 pounds. And you just asked me real quick where my thumb was, and I told you where it was, and you were like, "Oh, just change where your thumb is," and instantly it went away.
There could be other fixes, but that's just is one of them.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
but
usually, and that's actually a good point. Like it's usually easiest to start with the easiest thing to change. Like, yeah, there could have been a lot of other things to change. There could have been something in my shoulder, my elbow, or my wrist itself, but start with the easiest thing, move your thumb, and then see if it gets better. If it does, cool. If not, you move down the chain.
and it's one of those things like a lot of times like it's easier said than done because you're so in your routine. You're no slouch. You know what you're doing. You wouldn't have had 300 something pounds on your back for no reason. Um, so in your head, you're like, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything right. Like, what could it possibly be? And then you get to the point, you're like, okay, I'm gonna ask someone who, you know, another coach who might see something that I'm not. Um, and it's kind of like that a whole idea of like, well, maybe I don't know. So what should I start doing instead? Um, and it's a little different than the lifting thing that you brought up, but a lot of people know what they should and shouldn't do, but are they going to act differently? Right? If you got a guy that's overweight, 20, 30 pounds overweight, you go, okay, how are you going to lose weight? Like, oh, stop eating like an asshole, not drink as much, go to the gym more. Like, okay, are you doing it? No. Okay. Well, we have a very short list of things that you could change right now.
Yeah.
And then it dives into why aren't you doing them? Do you really want that goal? And then you go back to the first question, what should I stop doing? What are my obstacles?
Yeah.
So, I guess
And then,
that could kind of be the second question. What should I stop doing?
yeah. And then that opens up, all the avenues for us to discover those roadblocks and figure out, cool, these are your obstacles, right? Like you're working 60 hours a week, or you got a bunch of kids at home and you're dealing with like school and carting around to different sports and all this stuff that are like they're real obstacles, right? It's not, I've never really been a fan of that whole like we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Like, yes, but I don't have any kids, but I'm sure anybody with kids will say like you don't have those those 24 hours aren't yours when you're a parent. When it changes the entire game. And
Mhm.
so it presents something that you now have to work with and consider. And it's like, okay, what's realistic for you given your current lifestyle, being that you're working so many hours, or you've got kids, or you're doing work and school, or just whatever the roadblocks are. Like, do you think workouts have to be an hour, or you think they have to be 90 minutes? Like that's not true either. Like we can go down to like 20 or 10 minutes and still get you good quality work done. And when we talk about, what we should stop doing and what we should start doing, it gives us all this information and all these opportunities to meet these obstacles. And instead of saying, I can't do this because I have this in the way, now we can say, okay, how can we work through this obstacle and actually come up with a good plan for that particular person rather than them going to, some health and fitness magazine or some random workout on Instagram or Pinterest and just trying that and getting frustrated because it doesn't fit in their life and they don't know how to make it fit in their life.
And made me think of it as just like the whole idea of like success leaves clues. So, and when you start talking about like people that have multiple kids, um, I've got several clients I'm working with right now. I think one has four or two. There are a couple have four, and then there's another one that's got three. And the one, it's like, how do you make it work? Well, you have to prioritize it. And then as far as like success leaves clues, is like, are there people that you know that have multiple children, just for this example, that are successful, in whatever you're working on, health, nutrition, just better habits in general? Is like, ask them. If you, in a non-weird way, like, how can you study them? Do you know, um, some social media influencer that like somehow is making it work, you know, and you could ask, you could reach out, but it's also, you know, breaking down what you think is right. And like you said, it doesn't need to be a 60-minute, it doesn't need to be a 2-hour workout. Not everyone has that availability, but what if you could chunk it down to a 20-minute workout every day?
Yeah.
And you just go really hard over the course of 7 days, you can accumulate a good amount of volume.
Yeah. I mean, that like, and me, as much as I lift weights and like I value my strength, I don't really enjoy being in the gym much more than like 45 minutes. Like I can tell right when I hit that point because I start getting in that mindset of like, all right, how much left do I have? And that's
Mm-hmm.
when I look at my workout and I start like trimming it down and going, all right, what do we need to do to make this work in the time frame that works for me? But I know other people here in Albuquerque that don't mind lifting for like 2, 3 hours, and that's awesome for them. They've got the time, they can deal with it for that long. I'm just like, let me do my stuff, let me get out. Like today I got to the gym at 3:30. I was out at like 4:20 and I was like, I couldn't, yeah, I was ready to go by the time I got to the end. And I was like, let me just go get home, get set up for this call with Jack, because that's really what I'm looking forward to today. Um, but at the same time, I enjoy the lifting and I enjoy what it does for me in and out of the gym. So like that's what keeps me going back. But like if you told me I had to work out, like I tried programs that were like 90 minutes a workout or like 2 hours a workout, and I made it like a week. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I get most people when they feel like they have to work out for an hour and they get halfway through and they're like, I can't, like, I don't have the mindset for this. Like I get it. And that's where finding a coach like Jack, like myself, or like there's so many other coaches out there that should be able to go, cool, you only want to work out 30 minutes. Awesome. Let's make that your reality. And then boom, you got a 30-minute workout plan.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is like I've heard stories or run into clients where they're like, well, I just didn't work out because all I had was 30 minutes. I'm like, you kidding? Like plenty of time. You have the equipment at home or you have the availability to go to the gym. But if you don't have a plan, yes, it makes it very difficult. If you don't know, this is where you pay a coach and they sift through the things that are difficult for you because they've made all the mistakes. They have the plan, they have the GPS. They're going to tell you when to turn the corner in the hallway. Go up and wait,
Yeah.
change the
Yeah.
exercise, whatever it is. So, um, it's a whole idea of like seek support if you want to, if you're not seeing progress. Like, do you need to change your environment? I know
Yeah.
for some people too, it's like the kids need to stay away. Or for myself, I'm like, we have an awesome like home garage gym, but I need the environment change. Otherwise, I like my head
I,
game's not there. Like I always say, I'm like, I'm the guy, I could be in the middle of squatting. I was just like squatting like 320 something the other day, but like if I heard someone fart, I would fold. Like game over. So like that's like I'm easily distracted, but I always tell people I'm like that's all it could be. If someone make a joke behind me, I would lose it. So I'm like, I need the environment change. I need to know that I'm surrounded by serious people. The idea that someone might be watching me
yeah.
motivates me.
Hmm. Yeah, there's that because I've got a squat rack and like 400 pounds of plates and everything at home too in the garage. And like I tried it for like a month and I couldn't get into the headspace to really lift heavy and really push myself. And I started going back to the gym and I was doing the exact same workouts. They were taking the same amount of time and it just felt better at the gym than it did in the garage any day of the week.
Hmm. Well, and I guess, it's like you want to learn from your mishaps, failures. Like for me, and like COVID was interesting because we had no choice but to work out at home. So we made that work, but it was like my workouts did not feel, it was like several months of just not feeling great. But, you have to experiment to be able to find what works best for you, get you the results that you want. But we've had roommates, we know people that work out at home exclusively, and they are badasses,
Yeah. Yeah.
every which way. And it's different people. So I think the whole idea of success leaves clues is like you need to find what works for you. If you have no other choice, like yeah, it's probably going to be hard. You're not going to look forward to going to the cold garage, whatever it is. Like what do you want though?
Yeah. And that really brings us to the last of our three big questions, which is, we talked about what we should stop doing, and then we talked about what we should start doing instead. And once we've got, a week or two under our belts, then we sit down and we either we can evaluate everything that went well with ourselves or with our coach if we've got one, and then figure out what we should keep doing. And you look at the things that are going well and the things that are going easy, and you go, cool, is there a way that I can turn the dial up on any of those to make those more centered while still, following that GPS route? It's like, are you taking city streets to Wisconsin or are you taking the freeway? Like once you found the
Hmm.
freeway and it's working for you, like how do you then stay on the freeway? Like what do you have to do to stay there?
Yeah. And the thing is too, is like I think a lot of people think inherently they're doing a lot wrong. Um, and again, it comes down to awareness or having the outside perspective of a coach who can see, your metrics, see what you're doing day to day, your habits, how you're feeling, biofeedback. But, it's like, what should I continue doing? Like you have good habits. Chances are, it's like you're holding a job. You're not an idiot. You're probably in a relationship, maybe. But, think of all these different things. And it's like, okay, so you are good. You're good at a lot. But what is causing your fitness or nutrition to fall to the wayside? And, it's like you eat food every day, but the majority of people, they don't know shit about food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, if you don't know or you're never taught, you never went out of your way to learn. It's the same thing with fitness.
Hmm.
We
Yeah,
use
most of
our
us.
body every day, but do you know how to like use it appropriately? Maybe
Yeah.
not, but you know how to get uncomfortable. If you want the raise at work, you work harder, you do more. Okay, so it's like if you want to improve your nutrition, well, you're gonna have to get uncomfortable and eat the freaking vegetables that you've been avoiding because you can't eat like a college kid anymore. You want to lose weight, you have to stop drinking like the college kid that you were. Like you're an adult, you're making adult money, you have to make adult choices.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is like you hit on it real lightly with we just don't know how to eat. Like we don't learn how to eat in school. Like it's just not really a focal point. And it seems like a weird thing to say, like learn how to eat, but it's like, well, we eat all day, every day. So like, shouldn't we know how to eat? And it's like, well, maybe, maybe not. And it's the same thing with exercise. Like maybe we just don't know how to exercise effectively and we don't know how to make those changes for a given lifestyle, given life situation, right? And when you go and you look at, the food pyramid and you look at how the food pyramid's set up, where you got tons of carbs at the base and it's structured in the way that it's built, and then you realize that might not actually be the best way, but it was still for a lot of us the only way that we learned, quote unquote, how to eat. And some of us even forgot how to eat, even according to the food pyramid. We just sort of
Mm.
eat based off of like what sounds good and what's available, and we just go to town on it.
Yeah, and this is not to speak negatively on past clients, but I've had people that, it's like if it's food, you can put it in a meal. Like I've had grown adults thinking that, like chocolate chips and crackers is a meal. And that, like, I'm not even trying to be funny, and that's the honest truth.
Yeah,
And, as a coach, like looking back on it, yes, it's fucking hilarious. But you also have to consider is like when we're working with someone, it's not coming from a place of judgment. It's like, okay, like why? Like this is like so far off. Like what is causing this? And you go,
yeah,
okay, hey, you know what vegetables are, you know what meat is, you know what, like here's some complex carbs. We talk about that. They're like, oh yeah, well, what's wrong with chocolate chips? And like that's all. It's like, okay, so it's just an education thing. So I'm not trying to be a
yeah,
dick when I was like laughing at chocolate chips. It's funny if someone's like, I'm gonna have 3 servings of chocolate chips, or I'm just gonna have a couple fistfuls. Like this explains where you are, but it's the education aspect. And then being able to work
yeah,
with someone who's not going to come from a place of judgment. And then all of a
exactly. Yeah.
sudden things start to balance.
Yeah, I mean, my newest client, he's watching right now on Facebook, Gabe Gambino. We, we got to talking about nutrition a little bit, and we set up just two things up front for him to focus on. And one is a calorie goal and the other is a protein target. And this funny thing happens, Jack, and I think you've seen it too, where if you tell somebody to just focus on getting more protein, all of a sudden it's harder to overeat everything else. It's harder to
Mhm.
just go crazy with all the other food. And it's not to say that all the other food's bad, but it's a matter of ranking them on a hierarchy. And for me, with the clients I work with, the top of the list on the hierarchy is going to be calories and protein. Then once we have those in line and we know that we can be consistent with those, then we can start focusing on other things. But I've found that in most cases, we don't really have to focus on anything else if we can just get those two to line up.
I totally agree. That's how I start working with almost all my clients as well. Um, a lot of times I don't put, for me in my head, I'm like looking at protein and calories, but for them, I'm like, let's just worry about protein. Easy. We'll start there. But yeah, it makes it hard to fill in the gaps with other things.
Yeah.
Um, I know we kind of have it on our running list that we have, but something that I think plays a big role and it's important for people to like look back on because everyone has this moment in their life. Most people do. But in order to set goals and follow through with them, it's really important to, really check in with yourself. Like, are you actually, it's like if you ask yourself is like, how well do you take care of yourself right now? And have you taken better care of yourself in the past? Or at one point in time, have you taken better care of yourself? Yes or no? Okay. So if your answer is yes, and you're not happy with where you are now, it's like at that time when you felt, you're taking care of yourself, did you love yourself more? Were you more confident? Did you love others more? Were you more productive? And, did you have more confidence? I think I already said that, but it's just like when your health is better, you perform better in all aspects of your life. So it's like that, if that's not some motivation or drive to get back to it, it's just one of those things you have to consider. It's like, okay, if my health is better, I'm going to be able to follow through my goals better because I'm going to be more effective. I'm going to be able to execute. I'm going to be a better action taker. I'm going to have more energy. My mind's going to be clearer. I'm going to sleep better. Like
Yeah.
this is why you and I get along because we're just like, it's really basic, but it's not necessarily simple to execute on or, turn your habits. We have ways like we like to go about that, but um, so I guess like what are your thoughts on that if we shift to, like if you take care of yourself, your goals are going to be easier to achieve.
Well, I'm with that 100%. And when we say everything, we mean just about everything becomes easier. Like when you are in better shape, you can bring your groceries in one trip without feeling much of a challenge. And when we're in better shape, if you've got dogs, you can pick up a big bag of dog food without worrying about hurting yourself. When we're in better shape, we can keep up with our kids more. We have more energy to spend with them. We have more energy to spend with our families and go out on the weekends. We've got more energy and we're in a better mental state so we can handle the stress at work and the stress at school and everything else in the rest of your life. When you get stronger in the gym, it's not just getting physically stronger. That's obviously the most apparent benefit is getting physically stronger, but it doesn't really stop there because when you do that, it also has downstream effects that help you out mentally because of the things that you have to build and develop to be successful in the gym. Like you have to build consistency, you have to build resilience, you have to build grit, you have to build focus, you have to work through anxiety, especially if you're doing a new workout or you're pushing to a new PR. You have to learn that you have to just go do the work no matter how you feel. Like you can scale the work a little bit based off of like if you're just feeling tired that day or for whatever reason you're just not feeling it, you're just distracted. But again, as you keep doing things in the gym and you keep that consistency going, you learn how to almost flip that focus switch where it's like, yeah, there's stuff going on, but for me, it's like I have a timer on my phone between my sets. And so like even if I'm worried about the next weight because it's heavier than I thought it was going to be, or if like the day was hard, I know that timer goes off. It's like, cool, there's my switch. And all of a sudden that stuff gets pushed to the side. It's not really ignoring it because it's still going to be there when I'm done. But because of the time I've put in the gym, I've learned how to deal with the stress of the weight and the stress of everything else outside of the gym too.
It's a when you get into it and you start getting, and everyone's like I was gonna say, when you start getting serious, but everyone's serious is different,
Yeah.
rightfully so based on where you are. But the hardship that you go through in here and physically, those conversations of like, I'm supposed to get 8, but I'm at 6 and this is really tough. Like, I don't want to. Like, I have those every single time I'm in the gym. Every
Mhm.
time. I'm like, that's good, right? And then in my head, I'm like, no, screw you. Another one, I'm like, oh, you know what? You're good. You're one away. That's really not that far. It's like, nope, one more. Sometimes I'll even give myself a penalty rep, add one more on. But um, there's been a lot of transfer to that, whether it's confidence in yourself, um, trying something new because you've taken an action, you've proven that you can do it, and that creates confidence. And I think what a
Yeah.
lot of times happens, what a lot of times I think happens is like people start the new year and they take an action, they fail, and then it reduces their confidence. So then their likelihood to repeat is diminished. Come 11 months and however many days, full circle, you're like, okay, you know what? I built up the courage, let's fucking go. And then they do it again. So like
Yeah.
deep down, a lot of these people that say new year, new me, they don't actually believe in themselves. Like it takes so much to believe in themselves because part of it is like they don't understand that action precedes confidence.
Mhm.
You
It
take an
precedes it
action, yeah,
all of
you
it.
take an action, you get a result. If it's good, confidence goes up. Your likelihood to repeat is increased. If you take an action, and your result is not so hot, then confidence goes down and your likelihood to repeat is diminished. There are those people though that just keep doing the same thing over and over. They fail, fail, fail. It's like they're doing the same thing over and over, expecting a new result.
Yeah. And
Diets, fitness.
yeah. And yeah, it's like you said, right? Action precedes everything. Like everybody wants to be motivated to take action, and that's not the way motivation works. Motivation comes after you do the thing. Like when you go to the gym and then you go back to the gym and you realize, oh, hey, I got a little bit stronger. I added 5 pounds or I got one more rep. That part is where the motivation kicks in because now you're like, oh, stuff's starting to line up. And now you want to start doing more and more because you're seeing a little bit of a payoff. And so that's where the motivation starts to kick in. It doesn't really come up at first unless you're just watching like that perfect YouTube video. But even still, one day that video is not going to work anymore, or your phone's going to be dead, or the network's going to be down, or whatever. So many things that can happen for that. But when you build that skill of consistency, you build that skill of being able to act regardless of what else is going on around you, regardless of you know a bad day at work, or regardless of dead headphones or regardless of anything else that's going on around you.
Well, I think a lot of people, they chase motivation, and like I love the example of like a fire, right? So if you want this fire to be burning the next day, you want some big logs. You want a fire that's gonna, hold up to a breeze. And in a lot of cases, motivation is kindling. What does kindling do? It goes up very quickly. It gets the fire started, but it's fleeting. You can't just, have a fire entirely hold overnight just on kindling. You need logs. And basically what you just explained is like, what's discipline? Discipline is doing the things that need to be done regardless of how you feel. Or I have a quote that I picked up, is like, explaining to your brain every day that you need to sacrifice immediate pleasures to receive greater rewards in the future. So you want to build a fire, right? Or it's a fire under your ass, whatever it is, fire in your fireplace. Like you have to be putting down bigger logs that are going to be burning the next day when you wake up, rather than just the kindling, because otherwise you're going to keep shuffling the kindling in. You're going to get burnt out, burnt out on the kindling alone.
Hey,
So it's like the big movers taking action and doing it when you don't want to, or you don't feel like it.
yeah. And really that brings us down to like the next important point when it comes to setting goals and trying to most importantly figure out how to do so effectively
Mhm.
is what is a goal in the first place? Like, the difference between realistic, unrealistic goals, how to pick a goal and how to make it something that is attainable and how to make it something that is actually that you actually believe you can get to.
Mhm. I think goals are going to look different for everyone.
Yeah.
Um, Depends on the position they're in life. They're going to evolve. They might devolve, because if you better yourself in certain situations, whatever you thought that goal that was kind of lofty may have been, might suddenly be within grasp in a few short weeks or months. On the flip side, right, I always think of it again, Tony and I are both car dorks, but you look at, things like the, Porsche 911 GT3 RS. It's a nearly, when it's specced out properly, it's nearly a $500,000 car. But that's like one of those things where it's just like, is that an unreasonable, slightly unrealistic goal for where we are right now? Of course. But I'd be lying if I said that I don't think about that numerous times per day. But are
Daily,
those,
if you're
but yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. But it's, it's like, there's nothing wrong with setting those unrealistic goals, because then that means that it's going to push you to make bigger moves, to take, bigger actions, because like, yes, little actions matter, but at some point, you're going to have to take bigger moves if you want to go for that. But I think people sometimes get washed out and they set too many unrealistic, unattainable at the moment goals, and they set unrealistic expectations. So again,
Yeah.
come the new year, I'm going to lose this much weight by this date, and it's like, you know, coming from two coaches who we coach very similarly, it's like, it's not cool to set a weight goal for a certain date unless you have experience in the past showing that you possibly could do it in that timeline. Because if you don't
Yeah.
have the habits, you need to learn, and it's a shitload of practice.
Yeah, it takes especially if it's your first or second outing on that type of goal, there's a lot of plug and play and a lot of trial and error that happens just trying to figure out the things that you need to do and are able to do to actually get to that goal. So like having the weight goal is fine, but I think if you're just starting out, I think the biggest thing to help most people is to remove the deadline. They can be useful later down the road, but I think if you just have a goal of losing 20 pounds, I think that's a good place to just end the goal. And then you can start figuring out, then you can start building the GPS route. You can start building your path of how to get there.
Yeah, and it's like, speaking from experience, like I've had clients that are, more overweight, and you know, as coaches, it's our job to poke holes in people's logic and have that outside perspective. And if I can help someone lose 20 pounds in a year, which is for some people it's a lot, other people it's not. But like I've had a couple clients where it's just like based on life and what it took, it's like we got 20 pounds down. And a year later, they're still 20 pounds down. And 2 years later, they're still 20 pounds down. We did something right.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
shifting their mindset to be successful without setting like, oh, I need to lose 50 pounds in the first X months, 3 months, 4 months. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not that it's not possible, but do you have the tools and the skill set to do it?
Yeah.
So
And then usually when, when someone sets a goal like that and they go, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in, 4 months or 5 months or whatever, because I got a wedding coming up that I want to be in shape for. Um, that sets you up for, especially if you haven't done it before, that sets you up for frustration and it sets you up for defeat because more likely than not, you're not going to hit 50. You in 4 months, you'll make some good progress for sure. But you're not likely to get to 50. And when we hang our hat on that deadline and we try to make that deadline worth everything related to the goal, it just sets us up in a bad mental state. And that's where we get into the place of doing the crash diets and the super hard workouts, because we think if we have this big goal, we just have to do these extreme things to get there, even if we burn out along the way, or even if we affect our relationships around us, or even if we can't sleep 3 months in because we're so deprived. And yeah, like Gabe said in the comments, or keep it off. Like, you painted the picture
mhm.
of somebody that lost 20 pounds in a year and then kept it off for another 2 years. Usually, if you try to make big weight shifts really fast, those are the ones that end up coming back, typically with interest.
No one likes interest, especially right now.
No one likes interest.
Thankfully, we don't have to deal with that with our bodies to that extent. It's more so in our control. Um, but yeah, so it's like like you want to set a deadline, setting it now, not smart. Being tactical, and again, it's like setting, especially when it comes to our bodies. We're not thinking in days and weeks. It is months, and when I say months, I mean like three to
More than
six at
two? Yeah.
minimum, right? And then build from there. So you're better off setting, reaching for the moon, and what is it? Reaching for the stars, settling for the moon. I don't know. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Something like that. Yeah.
But like set have a like have change your expectation, lengthen that timeline, and if you put one foot in front of the other, you're not going to trip as often, and like you're gonna get there sooner than you think. If you're constantly, I use this like this example all the time. It's just like if you're staring at the top of the mountain and not looking at your feet, you're gonna trip. You're gonna step in a river. You're gonna get hypothermia. It's like these setbacks or speed bumps. It's like try looking down. Have your GPS. Know where the path is. It goes a long way, and it feels like it might take longer in the moment. But honestly, when it comes to making fitness or nutrition changes, slow is fast, and fast tends to be slow and repetitive.
Yeah.
So,
It's like, again, car nerds. It's like they say when you're learning how to race, they say slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And
yep.
that's how you make great lap times is you go slow. That slowness allows you to become more refined so you can do things more smoothly. So your braking is smooth, your cornering is smooth, your throttling is smooth. And as you get better at that, now all of a sudden you become faster than you thought possible.
As soon as you said car nerds, my first thought was where the line of sight is. It tends to be further away because when you start further away, things seem to come at you slower.
Mhm.
Rather than if you're looking 10 feet in front of the car, your eyes are constantly darting up, 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 instead of starting here and then you approach it more slowly and then you look out again. So it's very similar. Again, if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. That was for us. Um, but unrealistic is not a bad thing. You should have a mix of realistic and unrealistic. Again, it's like, back to those three questions, like what should you continue doing? It's like figure out the things that you are doing well and how can you apply that to what you want to change.
Yeah.
And continue doing it, or how do you improve it? But those are the better ones for the short term. But those longer term, bigger goals that might feel a little more unrealistic, set them set them out, hold them with love, but understand, you know, it's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
And as long as you're putting in the effort, step at a time, looking at your feet, not running your mouth, looking at your feet, it's gonna, you're taking the small action steps
Yeah.
to
And
get to where you
that
want to go.
and that really brings us to, we talked a little bit about uh figuring out some actionables for people that are watching or listening. And this is the part that we talked about before, which is what you do after you set your goal, which is how do you then build your plan to get there? How do you develop your GPS map? How do you find that? Because Apple Maps isn't really going to tell you how to lose 20 pounds, sadly. Neither is Google. Um,
If you walk, it might do it unintentionally.
yeah, I mean, if you walk from Albuquerque to Wisconsin, you'll probably lose some weight along the way.
Forrest Gump style.
Yeah. Um, and so, usually what I like doing, Gabe said he couldn't see his feet. That's why he called me. So we're working on changing that. Um, but yeah, usually, what I like to do with clients is first I like to sit down with them and have a conversation and develop a clear end goal. And a lot of people seem to be at least a little hesitant when it comes to setting a clear end goal. And I think it's because of some things that we've talked about before with not believing that it can be done, or not believing that that person can do it specifically, for all sorts of other reasons that'll probably come in future episodes of this of Made of Metal. And it's like, no, let's hash it out. Let's figure out what your big goal is, and we'll go from there. So we first set your big goal, like, cool, you want to lose 50 pounds. Awesome. Like you said, like, that's your big goal. Let's hold it with love. Let's respect that that's our North Star, and it's going to be where we point everything. Uh, but at the same time, understand that that's not going to happen in 2, 3, 4 months. Like, we'll get there, but the way that we're going to get there is we have to decide on some actions that we can do every day that will get us to that goal. And usually I like going no more than 3 at a time, because I just find that most people, myself included, juggling more than 3 new things at a time it's tough. It's just tough. So I usually cap it at 3 for a person. And figure out like 3 small things that you can do every day. Like, okay, you want to lose 50 pounds. What do you think that requires? Like, what do you think you have to do to get there? And somebody will say, cool, you need to go to the gym every day, and you have to eat vegetables with every meal. And then I bounce that back and I go, okay, cool. What do you think about that? Like, how do you think that's going to work for you? And what I'm looking for there is again, not to be judgy for anything that they're about to say, but it's like, all right, well, if you think you have to go to the gym every day, what's stopping you from going to the gym every day right now? Is it that you've got the kids? Is it that you're working a lot? Is it that you don't think that you have the mental capacity to work out for 60 or 90 minutes every day? And somebody will throw back one of those, and it's like, all right, cool, you don't want to work out for an hour a day. Cool, how long do you want to work out? Is it 45 minutes? Is it 30 minutes? And then go from there and figure out, okay, cool, you want 30 minutes? This is a workout that you can do effectively in 30 minutes that will still serve that big goal of 50-pound weight loss. And then we address the same thing with nutrition. We can address the same thing with habits. And it just comes down to having that conversation pretty repeatedly, and not from a point of like, cool, you didn't get it last time. I mean, it's just like a check-in process. Like, cool, this is where we are now. How do you think it's working? Is it working well? Cool, let's keep doing it. Is it not working? Okay, what new thing that we didn't see before is now an obstacle? And then it's this cycle of like, it's the scientific method, right? Like, you have a hypothesis, you come up with some things to test, you run it through a machine, you see how it works, and then you go, did it work or not? If it worked, okay, repeat it until it stops working. And if it didn't work, what do we have to change? Make that change, and then try it again and keep going round and round until you get to 50 pounds.
Couple things. It's like, especially when it comes to the human body, it is so freaking complex. And it's really easy to get stuck, especially if someone's not where they want to be. It's really easy to get stuck thinking that, like, oh, if someone did keto, they lost all this weight. This is the only way. And then they get hooked.
Yeah.
And then their quality of life goes to shit. And they don't lose the
Yeah.
weight and they don't keep it off, or, whatever it is. And it's just, it's hard for the person who's looking for change. And it's not that we don't run into that too on our end as coaches. Like, it's all still there, believe me. But again, it's getting stuck on one thing and understanding that there's a lot more to it, and you're better off getting help a lot of the times and starting slowly. Like you said, like, build these little things up, prove that you can do it, build some confidence, right? Action,
Yeah.
result, confidence, action, result, confidence. Cool. Now it's a habit. Put that in the back pocket. We can access that whenever we want, save to memory, move on.
Yeah.
Action, result, whatever it is. And something else that you touched on that I'm like really big on, at least within my business, is just like the self-belief side of things. Like, you're going to be your worst enemy. And there's sometimes you're going to feel extremely lonely in what you're doing, even though you have a supportive partner and a coach and all these things. It's just like, you have to believe in yourself that this is possible. Like, and if it's really fucking hard, you better believe even harder. It's not going to happen tomorrow necessarily. It's probably, depending on your situation, it might not happen for a long time. But if you, again, take the actions when you don't fully trust yourself or trust the end result, like, put the trust in someone else,
Hmm.
put the trust in a coach, put the trust in someone who's been successful at it to help you.
Yeah.
And obviously the hope is that you get positive results, but that moment when you look back and see all your progress because you set effective expectations and timelines, you get to look back and go, holy, like, we're making some progress here. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, self-belief kicks in. And who needs motivation when you believe in yourself?
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I was going to say you're dropping logs, but, on the fire, drop it. You know what I mean? That could have gotten out of control in multiple ways. Anyway, but you know what I mean? Like, you're building more habits, you're proving to yourself what's possible, and then when your self-belief is more appropriately placed, like,
Yeah.
you are a train that cannot be stopped in a lot of cases. And you can apply that to other parts of your life because you've
Yeah.
shown that you can do it in something that you really have struggled with.
You've shown that you can do hard things. And really, something else that doesn't get talked about a lot is all these things are skills. Like, trust is a skill, self-belief is a skill, confidence is a skill, even motivation is a skill. And the way that you build any skill is when you go, well, how do I build trust as a skill? You do things that require you to build trust. So it's like you work with you put yourself in a situation where you have to trust yourself to get through it. You get under the barbell and you're like, I'm not sure I can do it. Okay, the way that you can solve that is by going and trying, because now you'll know either way. You'll either be able to do it or you won't. And now you won't have to be unsure anymore. But now you can go, cool, I did it. What's next? Or, hey, I didn't do it. What do I need to change to be able to do it? And now you're building trust in your ability to problem solve and figure out the issue. And it's the same thing with self-belief. How do I build self-belief in myself? We have to do things that will build a sense of self-belief. How do I build discipline? You do things that require discipline, which is, like you said, it's training your brain to basically get rid of short-term pleasure in the hopes of a long-term reward. You have to do that and build the skill repeatedly. And trust, discipline, resilience, all of those things that I mentioned early on are for like mental things that you get out of working out. They're all skills that you build alongside the physical strength that you build at the same time.
And as far as, it's like, what are you going to take from this call? It's like, it's not setting goals the same way you did in the past if you have been failing, because we want to learn from our failures, right? We're evolving as a person, so we're not going to do the same shit expecting a different result. That's stupid. Like, you think about it, you're like, I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I shouldn't have done that. But I think we all do that in some way, shape, or form. Like, I can fully admit to that. But it's like, what are the little changes? Again, what am I doing well, and what can I continue doing? What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? Like, oh, I don't have vegetables at every meal, or like, a vegetable or fruit. I'm gonna start doing that. I'm just gonna get some, frozen rice cauliflower because that's easy. Cool. That's a start. That's a small win. Like those are the kind of goals you should start having because all of a sudden, you know, that snowball is gonna, it's snowing here, so, or it's supposed to snow more. We got a bunch, but it's like that snowball rolling kind of thing. Like it's gonna get bigger. So, you know, sometimes those like really simple, seemingly silly things are the key to what you're doing. So have unrealistic goals, but have, you know, good timelines, have
Yeah.
decent expectations, and oftentimes it's pushing those out further, especially when it comes to nutrition and training. It is our bodies don't change that quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, is
And
there
then
anything you want to add?
understand, yeah, to add to all of that, understanding that, yeah, have a goal, have a plan, realize that it's not going to happen as quickly as you want it to, but it'll happen faster than you think it is possible. But also realize that the on top of all that, you basically realize that you also need to keep in mind that this is all a process and it takes time, and it's most of the things that you're going to do are going to be boring. If you look at quality if you look at most high quality workouts, they're gonna be pretty boring. They're really only gonna have a few movements, and you're just gonna repeat them almost seemingly forever. But that's what's gonna work, because it's really trackable that way. And it's the same with nutrition. It's gonna be boring, and I don't mean boring in the boiled chicken, rice, and broccoli type of boring, but I do mean it in a way of like pick a few things to eat that you enjoy and just repeat those things. And the key is picking things you enjoy so that it's easier for you mentally to repeat them because you like the things that you're repeating. And when things are boring, you're less attached to them and you go, okay, well, how is this actually working? Versus, hey, three people at work did keto and they lost weight. I'm trying keto and I feel miserable. What's going on? And you're frustrated and you're beating yourself up. And what you don't realize is like, hey, those other three people are also miserable on keto. They just don't want to say it because they lost weight.
Doesn't sound sustainable to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, setting smaller goals, setting realistic ones. When setting expectations, the thing that I think crushes most people is that you want to set unrealistic goals, but you want to set realistic expectations because if you set unrealistic expectations, say you get 6 months into 12 and your goal was, meant to be a 4-year timeline, and you are 6 months in and you look back and you go, well, I don't have shit to show for it. Fuck it. You screwed yourself because, and like the hope is that you learn and you go, you know what? I'm going to push this goal and this timeline out. And then in 2 years, when you look back, you go, dang, I'm almost halfway there. Like I'm not stopping. Like whatever it is just like having the awareness to see that. Um, I think owning your own business, if anyone watching this owns your own business, it's like the hope is that, you don't give up early, right? And
Yeah.
you get so many years in and you look back and you're like, cool, like I did this. I'm gonna keep going, or you realize like the impact that you've had in
Yeah.
whatever field you do. But it's because we are our own worst enemy. We are our best salesperson. English is hard sometimes. Um, so again, being disciplined, not listening to the inner bitch voice, listen to logic, especially when it comes to your goals. But I could
Which is
keep
the
rambling.
biggest advantage, which is really the biggest advantage to working with a coach, is having that more objective, logical viewpoint over what's going on and what's working and what's not. Um, when we typically like, to go back to my squatting situation with Jack, like I was like I was dealing with that pain for like a month at least, and I was like, I think it's just gonna be what happens as the weight gets heavier. I think that's just like for not to make a pun, but it's like I think that's just the growing pains of getting that strong. And I was really around like the 350 mark when it really started getting bad. And I was like, let me just ask real quick just to see if maybe this is like a not supposed to happen thing, or maybe I got to look into like wrist wraps or something like that. And if I hadn't reached out and asked Jack, I probably would either still be dealing with the pain, or I probably would have gotten wrist wraps and not really realizing that like it was a much simpler thing to fix, because I reached out to somebody else. I was just looking at it unemotionally and just like and didn't care that like, well, I squatted that way for like 9 years and it just happened to be an issue now. Jack was just like, no, move your thumb. I'm like, stop it. Don't be dumb.
Like, I think it's like two questions. I'm like, how cold, like, where are your hands and where are your thumbs?
Yeah, that
And
was
that's
it.
all it
It was
was.
two questions, and you're like, hey, do this. And I think like 3 days later, I texted you because that was the next time I squatted, and I was like, hey, all the pain is gone.
Mhm. Yeah.
Boop.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how close they really are to what they want. And there's nothing wrong with wanting something, but it's having someone to bounce that idea off of sometimes, whether it's a really honest friend, not like I would call them like a yes man or a woo girl. Um, anything that you do, they're like, woo, and you're like, but that's not cool. And they're all like, woo, like, mm-mm. Same thing with a yes man. Everything's a great idea.
Mhm.
It's not. So it's finding those people that give it to you straight that's really important to have around you. And again, even if you only have a coach for a couple months, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. Um,
Yeah,
that's, like we've worked with coaches too. So coaches need coaches. Normal people need
yeah,
coaches. The best of the best have multiple coaches,
yeah.
whatever.
Like Tom Brady had a coach. Like we think we're better than Tom Brady. Come on. And I don't even watch football, but that's how good Tom Brady is, that his name exists outside of football.
Wow. But yeah, but like any, um, business owners, whatever it is, athletes, like they all have multiple coaches because it holds them more accountable and holds them to a higher standard. So again, it's not like we're not trying to like plug ourselves, but it's just like getting a coach can go a long way, even if they're not great. They can help to point some things out. But as far as goal setting, what should you stop doing? What should you start doing? What's going well and you should continue to improve upon? And then getting very, very aware of your current situation, your successes, your failures. Like you should sit down. This shouldn't be like a 3 minute thing, but write shit down. And I would advise setting your timelines out further than you think, and then writing down like what your actions are, who is involved in them, how often are you going to be doing them, how do you win the day, how do you win the week, how do you win the month, how do you win the quarter, how do you win the year.
Mhm.
And it's like you
And
need to sit
you
down
and
and
you
revisit
are the
those.
yeah, and you're the person that gets to decide those, like how you win each time period, how you win a day. Like don't go looking at like some random account on Instagram that you're not directly working with and follow and try to copy like their metric of success for the day, because that's how you end up in a hole. Like sit down either with or without a coach and decide what success looks like for you for like a Monday. And then just know that if you just do these things on that day, you win the day and that's it.
Last thing is small, simple habit trackers. I've had a couple clients that like absolutely love them, but like having a little checklist of like wins. Like I woke up today, that's a win. I went to the bathroom, that's a win. It was a good one too. That's a win. It's like, and by doing this, you're making check marks. You're proving to yourself that you're accomplishing things. And again, it gives you something to look back on and go, hell yeah, like good work.
Yeah.
There's no reason, but it's just like we get so lost in a lot of things. So it's just like, I drank half a gallon of water today. That's a little bit more than yesterday.
Yeah.
Good on you, check. I worked out 3 times this week. That's better than none. Check.
Yeah, that's a win for the whole week.
So there's a couple different ways you can go about it, but those are the simpler things that I would suggest.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to end for this week, Jack. What do you think?
I do, I do. We'll be back next week with something. We'll share that soon.
We'll be back next week. Since we are on my account right now, and everybody here pretty much knows where to find me. But if you don't know where to find me on Instagram, you just head over, look up Tony Davis Coaching, and you find me there. Jack, where can everybody find you if they want another great voice in their feed, providing quality information?
You can either look up my name, Jack Sullivan, or Instagram. Probably better off with modern__strength is where you'll find me.
There you go. So follow me on Instagram if you're not. Follow Jack, especially if you're not already. Follow us both for like a triple whammy of great information. And
Wow.
and we will see you guys next week.
All right, cool.